everyone, it's Mattia from Inhalt here. I'm at Infinite Power Studios, my studio here in LA, and today is a very, very special day because Madeline Goldstein has a brand new single out called Otherworld. Now, this is a single that I produced and mixed here at the studio, and as some of these records that I'm involved with start to come out, I'd like to take a second and highlight something that I thought was really, really interesting or really cool about the production process. In this case, we had some great guest players on this song, chiefly my friend Byron Burchard, who played saxophone towards the end of the track. Of course, we had just brilliant writing from Madeline and a great vocal delivery. For me, as a producer, early on, I was looking for capturing the essence of the song or essence of the theme and really finding a way to communicate that throughout the whole production process. So in this case, this was the idea of otherworldliness, and I thought that we would start from the drums. Now, I wanted to use the acoustic space of the live room at the studio and some of the hallways that I have to really play that up and enhance that. And so the production of the song actually started with a traditional recording session of recording acoustic drums, but not for the purpose of a performance, but for the purpose of individual sounds that would later be sampled. And so Madeline and I spent a lot of time, I think it was just like one whole studio day, of traditionally miking drums up, using multiple mics, putting up microphones to capture the acoustic space. If we wanted some kind of natural reverb, putting microphones in hallways, and finding interesting objects beyond just a kick and a snare to hit and grab individual sounds to put into Pro Tools. When that process was done, I knew that the key to this song was going to be sampling. And while I was working on this record, I was also working on my friend Dan Gatto's Continues LP, and Dan had brought his Emulator 2 sampler. So I thought that the E2 had a sort of really interesting 8-bit lo-fi characteristic that if we took all of this well-recorded stuff from Pro Tools and put it into that we would again be conveying this idea of otherworldliness. And the other part about the E2 is that it has a really interesting sequencer that is very, very kind of off, and I'll show you the E2 in just one second. So this right here is an Emulator 2. It's an early sampler with analog filters. It's a very, very slow sampler to work with. And what I had to do first was take each drum sound and assign it to the keyboard. So kick drum, so those were all the sort of sounds that we were working with. And again, to convey this idea of another world, I also didn't want to use a conventional sequencer to form the backbone and the beat of the song, the heartbeat of the song. And the Emulator 2, fortunately, has a sequencer inside of it, and it's a really, really strange one. In fact, if I hit play right now, that's the beat. And this sequencer, as you can tell, kind of has a ebb and a flow to it that's very, very distinct and very unique. Even though it's at the tempo it says that it is, it's not really fully there. So it has a movement to it. So I decided that the best approach for the track was to actually build the whole song around this sequencer. And the Emulator 2 also does not like MIDI clocks, so it was also virtually impossible to sync this reliably to Pro Tools. So what I opted to do was to actually grab about a 32 bar section of the beat, and then we hand played all of the other instrumentation against it, and that helped create this kind of very organic ebb and flow because we were playing to the imperfections of this sequence. It took a really long time. This is the disc that contains it, and saving anything to these floppy disks takes forever. Editing takes forever, but the end result within the song, I think, is really, really key. And again, just like all of the productions that I'm involved with, it's not just, capturing the source, even after all of the sampling. It's a lot of work after the fact. And if I pull up the drums here, you know, there's a lot of reverb, a lot of post-processing, compression, EQ, to get it to, again, convey this idea of otherworldliness. I mean, for me, I am, as a producer, always trying to help the artist with their idea, with what it is that they're trying to communicate, and I'm trying to do that sonically. So something like the theme of otherworldliness, I'm trying to enhance that at every point. And again, with these drums, because they're based around the sequence that's imperfect, it really walked us into having to play everything by hand. If I pull up the bass here, you know, it's several, you know, stacks of basses. I believe for this song I used a third wave from Groove Synthesis to kind of for the more metallic stuff, and a Prophet 10 for more of the analog stuff. And because it's hand played, it has this kind of offness to it, again enhancing what it is that we're trying to communicate, which in this case is the idea of another world. And being walked into a sort of position like this from the get-go, I think all the pieces sort of came together where the song really does feel sort of out there in terms of, you can't really say, is that a real drummer? Is that a real drum beat? And that's what something that makes it fun for me, you know, in terms of how to execute something like that. Again, going with the theme of otherworldliness, you know, sampled strings. Also from the Emulator 2. And when you put all the pieces together, you know, you have a complete picture and something that feels cohesive, and ultimately that, in my opinion, is worth the amount of time it takes to get to the finished product, because ultimately the finished product is going to be really indicative of the idea that's being communicated.